I was sitting at a table in South Philadelphia, playing penny poker with some of the church ladies. Rita Ganjami had bought a coconut cream pie from the Melrose Diner. Tessie Canalicchio made the coffee. Ida Profeta made the apple pie. Felix Lim ate everything. In the midst of the banter, the laughter, and occasional cheating from the ladies, Tessie lowered her voice, and she said to all of us at the table, "Did you hear about Rocco Gandolfi?" The other ladies just shook their heads, and I didn't know who he was. And Tessie said, "He went to the movies." Now, I was waiting for more, like, which movie did he go to? Did he like the movie? Did he pay $15 for popcorn? What's the story? Those were my questions. Ida was not asking those questions. Instead, she made the sign of the cross, and she said, "I can't believe it." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And Tessie said, "You know, he went to the movies." And I must have had a blank look on my face, so Tessie tried again. He turned in his Social Security card. And I was still confused. And Tessie literally whispered, "He died." And I said, "Why didn't you just say that from the beginning?" And Tessie said, "You can't talk about death. It is not nice." So if you're ever in South Philadelphia and someone says to you, "Do you want to go to the movies?" think seriously about your answer. Now, we didn't grow up talking like this in Singapore, where I grew up. We had wet markets where they sold fresh meat, fresh fish, fresh produce. And so from an early age, I saw the hawker grab the chicken, kill the chicken, clean the chicken, cook the chicken, and then we ate the chicken at dinner. And it was delicious dinner. And so from a young age, growing up in that context, I know that death is a part of life. And if someone died in the neighborhood, my parents would say to me and my sister, "He died." And if we read the obituary, it would say, "He died." And we all understood, we died. It's a part of life. It's a part of my future. And now as a priest, I read a lot of obituaries. And I've noticed that in our culture, we work very hard not to say the word death. And so in obituaries, you will not read, "He died." Instead, you will read, "He passed away," or "She passed peacefully into the arms of her Savior," or "He went home to be with Jesus." If they are more religious, you might say, "He crossed the River Jordan," which I like. Or, "She joined the heavenly choir." Some of my personal favorites that I made note of these in the last year in real newspapers. One said, "He will be smelling flowers from underneath." My personal favorite, let's call him David, though that is not his real name. David will not be counted in the next census. You might want to make note of these for future use. We don't seem ready to deal with death. And I know that when we lose a loved one, there are so many emotions at work. And sometimes we work very hard to avoid naming what's real. Perhaps because we, the living, don't want to deal with the fact that the same thing is going to happen to us. And so instead, we smile and we say, "He went to the movies." But in today's gospel, no one is pretending. Everybody knows Lazarus is dead. As Charles Dickens would say, he's dead as a doornail. John wrote the gospel, and he said this: Lazarus was dead for 4 days. 4 days. He is most sincerely dead. Some of you might know that reference, The Wizard of Oz. No one in the gospel is pretending. Mary and Martha didn't tell Jesus and the neighbors Lazarus went to the movies in Jerusalem. These are people who know that death is a part of life. They are weeping because that's what happened when someone we love dies. They are mourning, and that's appropriate. Could there be anything more honest than what Martha says to Jesus in verse 39? Lord, he's been dead for 4 days. There's going to be a stench. And that's a great word, stench. In the King James Bible, verse 39 says, Lord, he stinketh. He stinketh. And death stinketh because it is real. Death is something that every one of us will experience. No amount of pretending, no amount of wordplay will change that reality. No amount of Obamacare, no amount of Trump care will let us avoid that final diagnosis. We, all of us here, are mortal creatures. We die. That is my future, and that is your future. Mary, Martha, and Jesus experience sadness and grief that happens when death invades our daily living. Lazarus, their brother, the friend of Jesus, is in the tomb, and Jesus weeps. And even while Jesus is weeping, the neighbors are grumbling. He healed the blind man. Why couldn't he save Lazarus? He healed the blind man. Why couldn't he save Lazarus? Do you remember the blind man from last Sunday? Anyone? Now let me test you. Let me stretch you. How many of you remember the gospel from 2 Sundays ago? Anyone? What's the gospel? No one? What? What? Yes, that's it. That's the woman at the well. Good job, Gerard. Remember the woman at the well? How Jesus helped her experience hope and healing even with her messy history. And my friends, for about 1700 years, Catholics have listened to these 3 stories from St. John's Gospel during this exact time of the year in Lent. Why? We do it because these events, what happened with the woman at the well, what happened with the man born blind, what happened to Lazarus, these are seen as vital events and vital lessons for the adults who are preparing for baptism on Easter Vigil. Because through these readings, the candidates for baptism are assured that Christ will forgive their sins, just as he forgave the woman at the well. The candidates were assured that Christ would heal the wounds of their present and give them faith, just as he did for the man born blind. The candidates for baptism were assured that Christ would raise them from the dead, just as he raised Lazarus. But these readings are not just for those preparing for baptism, they are for all of us. So many of us are struggling. So many of us are not sure where to go. We don't know who to trust. Our culture keeps on telling us to just keep pretending. But Christians deal with what's real. These three gospel passages from John tell us the truth that we need to know throughout our lives. And the truth is this: Christ has forgiven our past. Christ can heal our present. Christ will be with us in the future, even when our future takes us to the tomb. Now, how does Jesus convey that truth in these three gospel passages? Well, first, he is telling us that his love is more powerful than anything that has happened in your past. The woman at the well that we heard about 2 weeks ago, she was burdened by the complexity of her past. 5 husbands, and now she's keeping company with a 6th man that she is not married to. She is an outcast in a society that judged her harshly. Could her past be forgiven? And Jesus says to her, "Trust me. God has already overcome your past. God's love has already forgiven you. God's love can heal what still hurts you. Your past is in my loving hands." Secondly, in the story of the man born blind, Jesus is telling us that his love is more powerful than anything that is hurting us in the present. The man born blind was literally encased in darkness, and everyone around him told him that there was no hope for him. But Jesus says to him, "Trust me. God's love is already overcoming your present pain. God is at work healing what seems hopeless to you. God's light is shining on what's ever dark in you. Your present is in my loving hands." And today, in the Lazarus story, Jesus says to us, "Trust me. God's love is already in your future. God is working out his purpose. God will walk every step of the journey with you. Like Lazarus, you will die. Like every human being before you, we will die. There is a tomb in our future. But Jesus says, "Trust me. I'm already in your tomb because I am already been in my own tomb. And I'm there in your tomb so that you will know the truth, that your future is in my hands. Your future doesn't end when you die. The love of God is already in your future, and your future is full of hope, even though you will have to walk through the tomb in order to get there." That Jesus, who raised Lazarus from the dead, is calling you by name to come out and live. Lazarus is dead, and now he lives. Who else other than Jesus can do the same for us? Who else other than Jesus can make that same promise to us? Death is real, but so is the resurrection. And Jesus said, "I am the resurrection and the life." Do you believe him? If you do, then you can know the power of his love to unburden your past, to heal your present, to lead you in the future. You can find life and love by listening to his voice, or you can keep on avoiding the truth by going to the movies.